Hello, everybody. It's Tom Stoukas coming to you from Sarnia, Ontario, November 8th, Saturday, November 8th. Hope everybody's having a nice night. Not very much on the news today. Just the sharks circling around the Conservatives, the Conservative leader Pierre Poilievre, and see how if he's gonna pull out of it. Usually like they're saying like, okay, he's being like, it's all these rumors and gossip just to undermine his leadership by the Liberals, and that's totally is what is happening. But because they're pretty ruthless Liberals. But if they were just saying this out of the blue, people might be skeptical. But because he lost, he had that MP cross over to the Liberals, and then he had the other one quit. Because of that, there's it gives it a little more weight. It's not just smearing or gossip. It's like, oh, there's something going on there. So it's up to, like, when you're the leader of the party, you have to show, hey, I'm in charge. This is bullshit. These guys are full of shit. But so far, he hasn't. I don't think he has quelled that perception that he's not. He's got a firm control of the party, and he's got a leadership review in January, which is coming up quick. And usually, when they don't if they don't get a certain amount of support at the leadership review, they quit. But he didn't quit when he lost his riding, so maybe he'll stay on. He'll try and stay on as long as he can. But a lot of trouble in the Conservative Party. The Liberals are humming along. They're going to get a majority one way or the other. They're going to destroy Canada, make themselves rich. Meanwhile, the Conservatives, they don't want to look, I don't know what they want. They don't want to look racist. Or they don't want to look like they're, I don't know, they don't want people to call them names. They're trying, the Conservatives, Doug Ford does it in Ontario, and he wins because the Liberals and the NDP are so toxic in Ontario. That's the only reason he wins. But they want to be all things to all people, and they ignore their Conservative base. Oh, I lost my. They ignore the Conservative base because they want to try and win votes in GTA or something. And people are never going to vote for the Conservatives in those areas. And I said, how many people, when you ignore your base and you don't speak with conviction or principle of your party, how many voters did you lose that stayed home, that didn't vote? Because, why would they? You're not speaking to the stuff that they want to hear, they want addressed, like mass immigration, housing. When COVID was going on, you didn't stand up for anybody. So all those people that stay home because they don't want to vote for the same old, that's enough to win an election, But they take the coward way out, the easy way, and they try to ride the center. And now he's paying for it because they're never going to vote for you up here. So let's just see what's going on today. Not a lot. A little quiet today. It's supposed to snow soon too. Oh, can you imagine this? Imagine seeing enough crashes on the road. It's gonna be a massacre on the roads once the snow hits. Maybe not. You never know. All right, let's go on this. Excuse me. This is horrible. The Liberal government has revealed that it spent over $7.1 billion in taxpayer dollars on Canada child benefit payments for non-citizens over the last 9 years. Clay Demand did fantastic work breaking this down. So, like, that's billions, right? I'm sure there's a lot of fraud going on there. Who knows what's... Oh, it's ridiculous, man. And this is like, you get all these non-resident population coming, which is like almost 7% of Canada now. They flood the education system, they flood the healthcare system, they flood the housing market, and now they're draining the social benefits. And, the child benefit helps Canadians with kids, especially today, with the prices they are. But we have billions wasted on people who shouldn't be getting it. And all this is going to do is encourage more people to come to Canada from failed states. They're going to, for all the social benefits, not to work, not to invest, but for all the social benefits. So it's horrible, horrible, horrible. Because when you give out milk and honey, they're going to come lining up for it. Look at these two traitors. He's like, the Champagne is the finance minister. He's like a little munchkin. He sounds like one too. Gotta get a video of him. All right. So the Liberal government has revealed that it spent over $7.1 billion in taxpayer dollars on child supports for non-permanent residents and other non-citizens over the last 9 years. Okay. How did this happen? It doesn't say how this happened. The Ministry of Finance did not respond to True North's request to comment on how the government justifies giving Canadians, this is what I'm asking, giving Canadians tax funds to non-permanent residents and non-citizens. However, Champagne revealed in his response to Vice that for a non-citizen or non-permanent resident to meet both general eligibility and specific immigration-related requirements to receive the fund, the individual must be a resident of Canada for tax purposes or be a protected person, such as an asylum seeker. So basically, if you have a visa and you're paying, because you pay taxes if you have a visa to work here, you're qualified for a child benefit. Apparently, if you're a refugee and you have 10 kids, you're qualified for a child benefit. Oh my God. They must have lived in Canada for a previous 18 months continuously and a valid immigration permit in the... We're the only country who does this, man. This is crazy. This is crazy. So basically, that's why you get people coming here and bringing their 25 cousins. Because they literally don't even have to be citizens to start draining the treasury here. We're already broke, $80 billion deficit. This is, oh man, it's very bad. This is, this is what conservatives should have been doing, fighting this for years. They could have been doing this, but they didn't want to look like they were anti-immigrant. This is horrible. Quite horrible. Instead, we're worried about, the conservatives are worried about who's going to be their leader instead of, actually, and this isn't rocket science. Like, it's not hard to fight this stuff. Like, stop the milk and honey. Okay. Next one. This guy. I saw this guy. So, first of all, there's this story today. Pakistani immigrant who caused deadly highway crash wins chance to stay in Canada. So basically this guy was like, it was a road rage incident. And he started like a huge crash on the highway. One person died because he was angry. Someone flashed their high beams and honked at him. And he caused the crash to kill the 22-year-old woman. And I guess he's guilty, but he was ordered deported, and they're saying he's fighting the deportation. In Canada, you have a lot of appeals to fight a deportation, whereas in a lot of other countries, if you commit a crime, it's boom, you're gone. In Korea, a lot of English teachers are there on visas, and if sometimes the odd one gets doobie, a joint or whatever in Korea, and it's kind of looked down upon. No, if you get caught with even a doobie in Korea and you're on a visa, boom, gone. You're on the next flight out and probably never allowed to come back. But in Canada, you can kill somebody and we won't deport you. But he has a problem because Michelle Rempel Garner, who's an immigration critic for the Conservative Party, is saying how people should be outraged about this. And yes, I agree with her. I'm not a fan of hers, but I totally agree. And he's like, this Mikhail Scooterard, whatever the hell his name. He says there are big issues to tackle on the immigration front. This ain't it. I'm beginning to understand why past CPC immigration shadow ministers have been told it's best to be quiet. I don't even know what he's talking about, but this is a big issue. If we can't deport like criminals that cause death and carnage in Canada who aren't resident Canadians, and we can't deport anybody. Like, we have no control over a country. Who is this guy anyway? Professor of economics at University of Waterloo. Anyway, he thinks there's more important issues than guys killing people on the road. And they're saying, they don't want to deport him to Pakistan because it'll be hard on his family. What about the family of the lady dead? I said men like this are the reason Canada is destroyed. Weak men. I don't even blame the immigrants because they come here. Of course, when you offer invaders free money and free land and free access to your country, they're going to do it. Of course, it's the traitor leaders that offer it to them is who I got a bigger problem with. And the population, the weak, pathetic men in the population who go along with it. Those two groups have the scorn, get the most scorn from me. So yeah, this Pakistani guy, don't want to inconvenience his family, his 20 cousins from Pakistan. All right. There's that veteran who spoke yesterday about how the country's worse off than when they fought in World War II. At least you're not speaking German. Probably doesn't land as hard now when there are entire neighborhoods in your country speaking Arabic and Hindi. Yes, German doesn't sound as bad. The German, I shouldn't say that, but English is fine with me. We don't need to speak German, Hindi, or Arabic. And here's kind of the smear campaign going on Pierre in the liberal press and the CBC, which is no surprise, but Pierre's not. He's not really counteracting it efficiently. We'll see if he survives it. Let's see. This is a little from their website. How budget week turned into a nightmare for the Conservatives. Is Pierre Poilievre's leadership in trouble? MP says he joined Liberals because of Poilievre's leadership style. So it's a drip gossip campaign against Pierre. Not surprising from the press in Canada. But will he survive it? We'll see. I don't think, it has legs. The only reason it has legs is because there's actually are some MPs that don't like him. Probably Doug Ford buddies. I can see Doug Ford being part of this next. And this is another thing they're going to do with him. So the guy who went over from the conservatives to the liberals, he's been getting death threats and apparently and harassment, and a lot of people I see on X and on the internet were very upset with him, like conservative voters, and obviously probably shouldn't be given death threats for something like that. But they're going to use this against Pierre, because what they're going to say is, look at the kind of people that support Pierre. They're issuing death threats, even though it's not, it's not fair to say that, but they will say it, and it's just another drip attack on him. That he's like supports extremists and liberals. They'll use the headline to blame Pierre for encouraging these threats. It's a blood sport. You can't complain about it. Yeah. It's pretty funny. But yeah, he has his leadership review in January, so I'm sure the knives will be sharpening as we approach it. But you still got to get through the budget. I think, when are they going to vote? Next week or two on it? So that'll be the more interesting, like that's the more immediate thing, whether the budget goes through and if he loses any more MPs. I don't know if he will. Okay. And here's this guy, Mr. Sunshine Baby. I'm not going to read all that, but basically he's saying, let's get back to real conservatism and stop watering down the values that built this nation to appease the center and the left. So basically red Tories, trying to get the votes in GTA and Quebec and in the cities that won't vote for, and ignoring the base. And a lot of conservatives during the election said, oh, he has to, and they said this with O'Toole too, oh, he can't say that, he can't do that because we have to try and win the election. You act like that, you try to be everything to everybody, and you end up losing everything. And I said, how many Canadians didn't bother voting? I said this before. Because they are disgusted with the fake, weak Conservative Party. Probably enough to win an election. Yes. If you got people fired up like Trump did, I don't know how, if he'll stick to his promises or whatever, but he got people fired up to vote that would never have voted before. So how many people could, if a proper campaign for Canada first, like, you got so much ammunition, like the billions and going to foreigners for Canada for the child benefit, the guy who can't get deported after killing people. You have so many things to get people fired up. Instead, they sit home. They don't vote because they're like, what's the use? Some might go and vote for PPC, which is good, but most people just sit at home. But if they had someone who's firing them up to these real problems and not afraid if the Liberals or the Toronto Star are going to call him a fascist, then you might be able to get those people out of their homes and voting. Like, and even in Ontario, look, Doug Ford's basically a Liberal. There's no conservative Ontario First strong premier like Oliver Mowat. Think of Mowat? He was a good premier. He always looked out for Ontario interests. And if you had, because there's not like someone like that, it's Doug Ford, who's a fake conservative, 60% of the people stay home on those elections because there's like, what's the use? Who am I going to vote for? Doug Ford? Liberals? NDP? So that's enough to win the election. But That's why it's like they don't want us to win the election. That's why they want us to stay home. So they give us this conservative slop to give us like this fake impression of a choice, when it's really just a uniparty. So, yeah. So, yeah, Pierre failed us on that. Aaron O'Toole for sure failed. And the next person, if they put in the same type of red Tory, like a Caroline Mulroney or Doug Ford, heaven forbid, it's going to be the same result. Even if they win, they're just going to do the Liberal policy just maybe a tiny bit slower. Look at what Doug Ford's done in Ontario. He was with Trudeau the whole time. All right. So yeah, Conservatives should be nationalists and unapologetic and not afraid of being called names. Because look, Pierre was afraid of being called names and didn't help him. He's still being called names. But he compromised on the immigration, on everything before the election. And now he's got nothing. What's this? I hate these guys. Cal Stanley, whatever the hell. Indian invaders held a referendum car rally in Montreal today. This does not belong in Canada. Cal Stanley supporters should be declared a terrorist organization, so the next time they try this, we can round them up and ship them back. Look at this, eh? No other country in the world, well, maybe the States, because they got tons of Indians too, but why would we let this kind of political movement into Canada? Like, we have enough division on our own with Quebec and now Alberta. Why would we let that into Canada? Look how organized they are too, and it's just why? Why interest does that serve us to have this presence in Canada? That's another thing. Who knows, how many Conservative MPs are Cal Stanleys? It's disgusting. This shouldn't be brought over from India at all. We don't want to hear it. I don't care if shit. I don't give a shit about Cal Stan. All right. Here's the Liberal government revealed the $7 billion in taxpayer dollars on channel. I said, no wonder there's an endless stream of third world migrants coming to Canada. You can't get deported. You get free money. You get free house. You get treated better than the Canadians. Of course they're just going to keep coming. No wonder Don Cherry was pissed off. All right. This is funny. I haven't really talked about this because I try to focus on Canada, but in the States they're doing this big struggle session between Israel First conservatives, and we kind of have this problem in Canada, Israel First conservatives, Zioshills I call them in Canada, like Wyatt Claypool and Cat Canada and Ezra Levant, and they basically don't mind flooding Canada or flooding the U.S. with millions of Indians and Africans, but they draw the line at Muslims. So because they're working for their Zionist masters. So anyway, he's making this. This is Jim Brewer. I think he's hilarious. He's great since the COVID, and he's making fun of Mark Levin, who's one of the guys, the Zionist guys, trying to get everybody to stop talking about Israel. And it's pretty funny. Like, made me laugh on a day when laughter was needed. Listen to this. It's hilarious. If I get the sound.
To Tucker. Between you and I, yeah. Now I'm going to
This
listen to Tucker and this Nick Fuentes guy. Is that his name? Yeah. Okay. You giggled like I said his name wrong. Did I say it wrong? I don't want him getting mad at me and telling me, I don't know who this Jim Brewer is. I'm going to have him and the other guy. Let me tell you something about Jim Brewer. He's a German Nazi, anti-Semite, pro-Hamas, pro-terrorist, anti-American. And now we're going to get him and Tucker And we're taking you down because I want more people bombed in Palestine. We need to bomb more people in Palestine. We need all the land. That is ours. It's ours. It's ours. And we get to kill whoever we get to kill. How much money am I getting paid to do this? Okay.
That's funny. I needed a good laugh today. That was good. But yeah, it's not as bad in Canada. It's bad in a other way because we have the Soros guys controlling, like, ready to put us in jail for criticizing immigration or transgender mental illness. So we have our different problems, but they're trying to really clamp down on the anti-Israel sentiment. It's pretty funny. But we have our own Zio shills in Canada. Wyatt Claypool. He's a little grandma there, that guy. And him and Daniel Boardman. They wouldn't mind filling up Canada with Indians. They have no problem. All right. This is another story. There's an Indian driver. I don't know if he was Canadian, if he had the magic paper, but he's an Indian driver. Kills, sentencing hearing for driver involved in Vaughan crash that killed 16-year-old boy. So, how many people have to die? There's a lot of bad drivers now. And I heard this, like, insurance going up, and I see crashes all the time on the news. Now, is that a new thing? I don't know. I don't remember seeing this many crashes all the time when I was growing up. A Woodbridge man was driving at excessive speed when he struck and killed a Vaughan teenager on a mini bike and fled the scene. He's facing up to 9 years in prison. Harnoor Shah, whatever, sat in the prison. He pleaded guilty to dangerous driving causing death, failing to stop after an accident causing death, public mischief. A lot of them don't stop. I've seen other cases where they've hit and run and gotten the hell out of there. I think this Pakistani guy did too. Anyway, horrible drivers. They'll run you over and take off. And then when you try and deport them, I feel bad for the parents. Didn't have to die. 16-year-old boy. It didn't say he was an immigrant because usually they say that, but or maybe he is, but he was probably born here or came here when he's young, got his Canadian magic papers, and then killed. He doesn't know how to drive worth of shit. All right, here's Quebec. Quebec to close permanent residence pathway for temporary foreign workers and international student graduates. That's interesting. I have a lot to say about that. I never heard of the CIC news. The government announced it will be closing the Quebec Experience program and ending two streams that fall within it, Quebec Graduate Stream and Temporary Foreign Worker Stream. All right. What are these streams anyway? So basically, it's like in Canada, it's such a lie when they say temporary foreign worker visa or student visa, because literally everybody, literally 99% of the people that come here on a student visa or a temporary worker visa are not here. Like when I went to Korea, I had a student a visa, a work visa as an English teacher. There was no expectation I was going to stay as long as I wanted or forever or become a Korean. I was there for a work visa, and the work visa was 1 year, and it was tied to an employer. But in Canada, literally everybody that comes to Canada, from India especially, and other parts of like Africa and Southeast Asia, whatever, when they come here on a student visa, they have no intention of going back home. They're not coming to learn and then go back and fix their country. They come here, it's literally a pathway to citizenship. And same with the temporary foreign worker. They come here with the intent of staying on as a permanent resident. It's not just like I'm going to go work and then come back home. So it's the biggest lie, basically, these programs. And Quebec's starting to like say, okay, time to shut it down. So, but Ontario, how do you think we filled up Ontario? Temporary foreign workers, students, over 10 years? Then you wonder why you got traffic and, nobody can afford to live. But Quebec has always been more tighter on the immigration. But I just thought that was interesting because, like, it's a pathway. The visa program and the student visa, it's all pathway. They never said that, though. It was always a pathway, but they didn't want people to know that. Because all those people coming into your town, supposedly temporary, no, they're there to stay. All right. So this is the Pakistani guy who's fighting the deportation. And listen to this, like, these guys shouldn't be driving. These guys, I don't know how they drive back home, but he's not a Canadian citizen. His name is Yasser Beg, not a Canadian citizen. Road rage caused a chain reaction involving 5 vehicles that killed a 22-year-old woman and he fled the scene just like the other guy. Yasser Beg was given a slap on the wrist with a 6-month sentence. 6 months, man. All right. Probably not to hurt his immigration status. Because I think anything over 6 months, it would hurt his status. Ordered deported May 17th, 24. So, over a year ago. Over a year ago. Was it over a year? Yeah. Year and a half ago. He's on his 3rd appeal. Why is there 3 appeals? So this guy, he left the scene too. I've seen so many stories of these guys crashing, hitting somebody, and then taking off. I'm not saying Canadians don't do that either, but I'm seeing it. It's a trend. It's a big trend. All right. The man got angry because someone flashed their high beams and honked. He was ordered deported 17 months ago. 17 months, man. Why is this guy even here? All right. It happened 7 years ago this happened. January 27, 2018. So, he fled the scene of the accident but surrendered to police. A dozen days later, that's so nice of him. So in 22, so his case didn't go to court for 4 years. It took his case. So he's in October 22nd. The married father of 3 pled guilty to dangerous driving causing death. Beg, a permanent resident of Canada, was sentenced to 6 months less a day in jail and 32 months driving prohibition. 32 months. That's a year and a half? No. Well, a year and 8 months. No. Sorry. 2 years. Should have been like probably 10. It's like a slap on the wrist, base. 6 months into 3, it's 2 year and 2.5 year ban. All right. All right. As a result of his criminal conviction, Canada's Immigration Division conducted a hearing that concluded Beg was inadmissible to this country for serious criminality. A removal order was issued against him May 17th, 2024. He took his case to the Immigration Appeal Division, seeking special relief on humanitarian and compassionate grounds so that he could maintain his permanent resident status and remain in Canada. Whatever, man. man. When the panel turned him down, which thankfully there is a little common sense, he took his case to federal court asking for a judicial review. And of course, the commie judges, and oh my God, we gotta get rid of these judges. Like fire them. That's all I mean. Listen to this judge. In my view, the IAD fell into error in two ways, said Justice Ann Turley. In finding that Begg had shown minimal potential for rehab, the IAD did not engage, Turley said, with the Ontario Parole Board's determination that he posed a very low risk to public safety. Judge noted that the Parole Board uses a tool designed to assess an offender's risk of recidivism, rated as a very low risk. So he's low risk to offend. Ooh. According to Turley, in assessing the best interests of the children, we can deport the children too, you know. The ID did not consider Begg's evidence that his wife and children would return to Pakistan with him if he was removed from Canada, nor the resulting hardship on the children due to language barriers and lack of educational accommodations. So basically, poor this guy. It's going to be inconvenient to deport him. And this judge agreed. This judge. Okay. So what's going... Okay. Now, so what's going to happen now? Okay. Okay. Turley determined that IAD's decision was unreasonable and must be set aside. She granted Begg's application for judicial review and sent his case back to IAD for redetermination. So basically, this guy still has a chance to stay in Canada. But this judge is like, these Canadian judges, man, what the hell? Are they all commies? Commie Marxist judges to just basically rule against anything that is good for Canada. Like getting rid of this guy is good for Canada. It sends a good message. A lot of commie judges in Canada. I hope I don't get in front of one of them. Okay. All right. Here's another thing. Doug Ford and his stupid tunnel. I'm sick of this, hearing about this dumb tunnel. They want to spend like $100 billion to build a tunnel under the busiest stretch of highway in Canada. Meanwhile, they've spent like 20 years trying to get this LRT built in Toronto, across town, Toronto. It's still not open. And apparently, he wants to spend $9 million on a study to see if to study 401 tunnel concept. But apparently they already had a study in 2021 when Doug Ford was premier still for a 401 tunnel that found a potential for a 401 roadway collapse. Now he's spending another $9 million on a do-over. And it's horrible. Like, and 50 to 100 billion, probably more, to build a tunnel. Instead of, we deport a bunch of people and there won't be as much traffic. It's way simpler solution. So yeah, Doug Ford's a traitor. Who knows if this 9 million, how many kickbacks there were. Okay. Next, Manitoba Premier Wab Kinew. I didn't think he would sound like one of the most sensible politicians in Canada lately, but he is for some reason. He said last week something about pedophiles because of the pedophile case. Another judge, Canadian judge, struck down the pedophile minimum sentencing for basically if you get caught with child porn you have to go minimum 1 year in jail, and the judge struck that down. And Wab Kinew said they should bury him under prisons, which is a good answer. Or castrate him, do something to him. Now he's talking about drug addicts. And he's basically saying Manitoba Premier Wab Kinew said those suffering from severe drug addiction, those people running around the street or walking around the street like zombies is what he's talking about. Those suffering from severe drug addiction in his province will no longer have the right to determine how the rest of us are going to live in our society. So yeah, basically the way the harm reduction industry in Canada, which is $1 billion industry, they basically coddle these guys, and they want to keep the grift going. That's how they make money. They don't want to cure these drug addicts. So they coddle them, and they give them all these programs and free needles and free supply, and basically enable their lifestyle where they wouldn't have been able to without their help. Oh, here's an apartment, here's a crack pipe. Anyway, then they wander around the streets, break into businesses, shit on the sidewalk, and we're like normal citizens have to put up with it. So basically he's saying, I think that's what he's saying, he's talking about forced involuntary rehabs. Well, if you're, passing out on the street all the time, we have to pick you up and you're ruining business. Yeah, it's too bad. We've had this coddling strategy for way too long, and things have gotten worse than ever. So I can't believe Wab Kinew is becoming a voice of reason. I never thought I'd say that. I'm sure he'll say some other dumb stuff, but he's right on those two issues. I'll give him credit. I'm a fair person. All right. So yeah, Ford government has awarded a feasibility study for 401 tunnel. Yeah, like I said, deporting people is way cheaper. Way cheaper. Instead, he wants to bring more. If you've seen traffic in Toronto, oh my God, it's a nightmare. It's a nightmare. Even if there's no accidents, it's still a little iffy certain times of the day. But when there's an accident, there is a lot, because there's a lot of shitty third world drivers in Ontario now. When there's an accident, that whole thing, it just mucks it up. Lanes closed, hours delayed, your whole life on hold because some dummy doesn't know how to drive. But yeah, Doug Ford wants to build the tunnel. All right, that's it. That's all the news. Not much news, just the regular outrage. But we'll see what happens with Pierre. We'll see what happens with the budget. I don't know. We definitely need a new type of politics in Canada, because it's Canada Last policy right now, even after Trudeau. Especially now with Carney, like he's Canada Last, globalist first. So definitely we need some kind of political earthquake to shake us from our slumber. Otherwise, Canada's going to be a commie shithole. Almost there, but not quite. So, we'll see. Next broadcast is tomorrow, October 9th. Or no, October 9th. November 9th. November 9th. And we'll see. I'm sure we'll have something to talk about tomorrow. So until then, have a nice night. All right.